Hi, this is Tommy Andrews, and I'm back with the Blues and Roots Ensemble to help you improve your improvising using the Charles Mingus classic, Nostalgia in Times Square. Now, last week we were looking at using the melody as a foundation for our solo. This week we're going to talk about some more complex harmonic concepts. So maybe go and check out that first video if you haven't already, and then come back and join us as we go even deeper into the world of jazz. We're going to start by talking about chord tones. Now, chord tones are the real building blocks of a chord. They usually refer to the first, third, fifth and seventh note of a scale. And these are the notes that define what the chord is. And when we see a chord symbol on the music in front of us, knowing our chord tones can allow us to decipher what that symbol means and allow us to play effectively over it in our improvising. Good exercise for us to do to get more familiar with chord tones and also to learn the harmonic structure of the tune is to play the chord tones up and down our instrument. Now, this is most definitely an exercise, and I wouldn't recommend doing it as part of a solo because it's not very creative. But by doing these exercises over and over again, it's going to allow us to have more freedom later on when we're in a gig situation. So let's learn these chord tones together. First, we're going to do them just out of time, just one chord at a time, using all of the chords in the tune Nostalgia in Times Square. And then we're going to try and play them in time along with the backing track. First, we're going to start on the root and go up the chord tones for the first chorus. And then for the second chorus, we're going to start on the root, but we're going to go down. So we're making sure that we're learning them one way and then the other way. So follow me. So after that exercise, you may find that it all feels a bit robotic, a bit static, and that you're always leaping back to the root note every time. And that's true, it's not very creative. So what we can do now to start freeing up our playing is to make sure that we can access our chord tones from any of the scale degrees at any point on our instrument. So what we're going to do now is we're going to start on our chord tones at the bottom of our instrument. We're going to play through them, but then when we change chord, we're not going to go down to the root of that chord like we did before. We're going to find the next note that's nearest to where we are that fits within that chord. So if we finished on a G in one chord and then the next chord has an A in it, we're going to go to that A instead of dropping down to the root note, for example. And what this is going to do is it's going to allow us to have a bit more flow in our playing instead of always dropping back down to the root or up to the root. And the other thing it's going to do is it's going to force us to use the extremities of our instrument, the extremities of our range. So we're going to start at the bottom of our instrument, we're going to go as high as we can on our instrument, and then we're going to come all the way back down again. And we're just going to keep going up and down the chord tones, but changing every time there's a chord change. It's quite difficult. It's a really good brain workout as well as a good finger workout on your instrument. And it's a good load of fun. It frees up your playing a lot. So have a listen. Now that you're familiar with your chord tones on this tune, it's time to start getting creative. We're going to do something called chord tone improvising. This is where we're going to be playing solos over the tune, but only using chord tones. It's really important when you're doing this to make sure that you're still trying to get those transitions between the chords really, really smooth, like in the last exercise. And also start to think about some of the things from the last video. So we talked about using melodic ideas, repeated ideas, using more space in your playing. You don't have to play all the time, remember? And also maybe some blues influences as well. So, only chord tones. Try and be as creative and as melodic as possible. And here we go. Have a listen. So hopefully after that solo, you realise that by using just chord tones, you're not that limited. You can still create something that has flow, it has meaning, and it's still melodic. And one of the things that I was using to do that was something called guide tones. Now guide tones are the 3rd and 7th of a chord. And these are the notes that really colour the chord and give it the most character. The 3rd being the note that gives it a minor or major quality. And the 7th is the thing that gives it the kind of brightness of a major 7 or the darkness of a minor 7. So it really colours the chord. Now, because these notes are so colourful, if we utilise them lots in our playing, especially at strong points in the bar, it's going to give our playing more character, more harmonic character. These notes, 3rds and 7ths, tend to cadence to each other as well in standard jazz harmony. The word cadence comes from the Latin cadere, which means to fall, and guide tones tend to fall to each other and cadence to each other, and that creates a really strong melodic line. This is no more apparent than in the last few bars of the melody of Nostalgia in Times Square, where Charles Mingus uses what's called a guide tone line. If you listen to the melody, the bit that goes da 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 da, all of that, within all of that sort of crazy leaping melody, there's this chromatically descending line. Da 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 da. And that's a guide tone line where sevenths are falling to thirds and thirds are falling to sevenths. So if Charles Mingus is using a guide tone line, it would be a bit silly for us not to try and use one as well in our own playing. There are hundreds of tunes out there that utilise guide tone lines to create strong cadence points. One that springs to mind right now is Fly Me to the Moon, and that uses those cadence points in almost every bar. If you think about it, it goes 3 7 3 7 3 7 3 3 7 3 7 3 7 3. So it creates that really strong iconic melody just from using really strong guide tone lines. So after a bit of a chord tone workout today, hopefully you've learnt that exercising your harmonic muscles can lead to a development in your melodic playing. It's all about finding those points where the note in one chord can lead melodically to a note in the next chord, and creating really strong lines using those. Don't forget to check out your guide tone lines where sevenths and thirds tend to cadence into each other, and using those like Mingus does in his tune for the last 4 bars. Thanks for listening today. I hope you've learnt a lot. Keep practicing and we'll see you again soon.